Welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV, the live TV show all about the legal aspects of your business to help educate you on complex legal terms in an easy to understand manner, to help understand why you need to do certain things in your business from a legal point of view, and to help you develop a plan for the future. Our mission at Business Legal Lifecycle is to help empower all small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place.
Hi everyone, Jeremy here. This is a special podcast that we're doing to celebrate the launch of the Business Legal Lifecycle UK edition. So on Tuesday the 27th of November 2018, I've attended London and an event organised by our UK editors Peregine Law and Nigel Clark, where we talked about how to scale your fast growth business. And we did that at WeWork in Mark Square in London in Shoreditch. And we had a really interesting panel. So we had Andrew Adcock from Crowd for Angels. We had Joel Crouch from Eventbrite, Lucy Chamberlain from CNC Search, and Tim Savage from Akamani, and Juna Takechi from City Unscripted. This was a panel discussion where we talked about three main topics. So we talked about scaling your business and how important culture is around the scaling process. We talked around funding and we talked about the different types of funding and where the panel talked about how their funding journey occurred. And then we also talked about scale and, you know, if you are going to scale your business, how you are going to do that. Now, this was a recording in a live venue in a WeWork, which was an open space, so there is a little bit of background noise, so I do apologise for that. And we did have some technical problems, as always. That can't be avoided when you're recording live. So we do have a little bit of it cuts out a little bit places. I'll identify those just so that you know where they are. But yeah, this is a really engaging chat, so I really hope you enjoy this panel discussion for the launch of the UK version of the Business Legal Lifecycle.
We better kick this off. Thank you all very much for fighting the elements and coming here tonight. Really appreciate it. Matt, last but not least. Thanks, mate. I'm Nigel Clark. I'm from Peregine Law. We are a startup law firm that set up 2 years ago. We are trying to scale fast. So I'm here to learn a few things and to introduce you to a few people who are going to teach us all a few things, hopefully. I'm going to introduce first of all, and please, we're going out on Facebook Live, so if you want to wander around, that's great, but put a smile on your face. We've also got copies of the book, which Jeremy's going to talk about in a second. There's enough of us for it to be a good event, but we need it to be interactive, so please interrupt Jeremy or I at any time, or the panelists. They want you to ask questions. Please do stick up your hand and we'll give you a microphone or you can shout. I'll wander around. I'm going to introduce first of all to Jeremy Stretton, who's flown all the way from Brisbane to be here to launch the Business Legal Lifecycle. Jeremy's the author of the book, which is an Amazon bestseller in Australia, and we are now officially launching it in the UK. Peregine Law, luckily, were invited to be the UK editors of the book. We've changed a few fair incomes to OKs and a few other bits of colloquialisms. But it's available on Amazon. We've got a few copies, and I'm going to hand over now to Jeremy just to give you a couple of minutes before we introduce our stars.
Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, so my name's Jeremy Stretton. I'm a lawyer from Australia, and so as the author of the Business Legal Lifecycle, I just wanted to tell you a bit about why I wrote the book and a little bit about it. But before I do that, I just wanted to say a few thank yous. First of all, to my business partner Craig, who'll be watching hopefully at 4 a.m. in the morning in Brisbane. Maybe not. You might watch the replay. For putting up with me and letting me do all these crazy things. To Nigel and the Peregine Law team, there's no way I could have done this without them. It's been really a pleasure to work with you guys and to get this book ready to go. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And also to anyone who reads the book, when you read the book, you'll see there's a lot of stories in there, a lot of case studies. I get them from the case files. And I'd like to thank the people who are those stories, because without those stories, the book wouldn't be possible. So why did I write the book? I wrote the book because I was frustrated as a lawyer. I was frustrated with the fact that, as a lawyer, people came to me when they had problems and not when we could actually prevent the problems from happening in the first place. So I want to change the practice of law to be proactive from being reactive. And so we basically, my business partner Craig and I looked at the 5,000 odd businesses that we'd had before over 13 years at that time of being lawyers, and we worked out when they did things right, when they did things poorly, and we really sat down and mapped out a journey of a business owner from a legal point of view. And so that became 13 phases and became the Business Legal Lifecycle, and then we decided, well, it was time to write a book. And the book really addresses three problems. The first one is what we found, that business owners really don't understand complex legal terms, nor should you. Lawyers have this complicated language that we use, and so in the book I fight my inner lawyer and I explain a lot of those legal concepts in plain English so that people can actually understand what we're talking about. The second thing and pain that I found was that business owners didn't know why they needed to take certain legal steps in their business. So throughout the book I explain why they need to do certain things in their business, why they need to take certain legal steps, so that breaches that divide of understanding what they need to do. And the third thing, and probably the main reason for writing the book, was people know the stat that 60% of businesses fail in the first 3 years. And there's been a few studies about why that occurs. And what's been found is that 95% of those failures happen for reasons other than money. When I first heard that, I was shocked. I thought, well, businesses fail because of a lack of money. And the predominant reason is a lack of planning. A lack of planning, a lack of understanding of what they need to do for the future of their business. So the book addresses that planning element. It goes through what people need to do from a legal point of view in their business to plan for the future. Because I want to help stop that 60% of businesses failing. I want to help them to be able to thrive and build really successful businesses. So the book goes through and helps people and business owners to plan for the future of their business so that they can really stop themselves from so many of those common problems that people have. So look, that's probably enough from me. As Nigel said, we've got the book here. We've got it for £10. I think I was saying dollars, but pounds. So feel free to buy it. That's a reduction on our recommended retail price. I'd really love it if you do get a copy of it and you do read it, and if you like it, to write a review on Amazon. And at the moment you'll notice that we've got a review on there from a gentleman from Australia on the back. The best review that goes up on Amazon in the next month or so, I'm going to change to the best review from the UK. So the best review, if you get the book and you like it and you give us a good review on Amazon, I'll change the back so that you're on the back cover of Amazon. So there's an incentive to get the book and to write me a nice review, if you like it. And if you don't like it, you can write me a nice review.
Not have to own a huge business to be going on the back of the book, no?
No, not at all. All right, so that's enough from me, and I think I'll hand back to you to introduce the panels.
Sure. So, informal event, we're in WeWork, there's a reason for that. We just want to do this informally. So what we're going to do for the next 25 minutes or so is I'm going to shut up. Jeremy's going to run Q&A effectively with our 5 panellists. You're going to interact with them, they're going to interact with each other. We've got a limited number of mics, so they're going to share around the mics. And I'm going to call them up left to right, and if you want to all just come up and then just do 20 seconds on who you are and what your business is, that would be great. So left to right from the audience, so we're going to go Andrew, first up. And then Joel, and Lucy, and Tim, and Juna, please. So Andrew, I'm going to pass you the mic and then literally just introduce yourself and your business, and we'll go from there, Jeremy, okay?
Sounds good.
Hi, I'm Andy Wyckoff. I work in crowdfunding, so we raise funds for small companies, anywhere up to about £500,000. That's about it really. Founder, stressed, tired, but enjoying life.
Hello, I'm Joel Crouch. I'm the GM, or MD apparently, of Eventbrite in the UK. We are a ticketing platform, but we are a technology platform first, ticketing second.
I am Lucy Chamberlain, and I'm co-founder of the support staff recruitment specialist firm C&C Search. We started in 2014, 4 years ago. We will turn over just shy of 5 million this year, and with 30 people have grown organically, based in Liverpool Street.
Hi, Tim Savage. I'm from Harcooney. I'm one of the founders. We are a cloud-native transformation company. We have a very similar journey, I think, to yourselves. We're about 30 people, organically grown the last 2 years. We've actually been in operation since 2012, but growth kicked off early 2016, so it's been our journey.
Hello, I'm Giulia Macalucci. I'm co-founder of City Unscripted. We are a young company. We have just raised 1.25 million, so we're very excited. City Unscripted, we match curious travelers with locals around the world so they can see a city together, trying to recreate the experience of seeing a city with a friend. So, pretty cool.
Great, thank you everyone. So we're going to talk about three main topics tonight, and feel free to ask questions as you go, if anything comes to mind. The first thing I wanted to talk with the panel about is culture, because I think culture is really important, and in the life cycle, phase 4 is bringing on employees, and that's all about getting your culture right and getting that team dynamic right. So I might start with Tim, if that's okay. And like many businesses, culture is critical for your business. We've had a chat about this before. So how do you build and maintain the culture that you need for your business?
So it's been a learning curve for us over the last 3 years, really. When we first started growing, we used a lot of, I was going to say temporary staff, but sort of contractors, various different levels of engagement in the company, and we really struggled to build the cultural side of what we were about and what we were trying to help change within organisations. So we're going in trying to reach how to become a technology company. As Joel mentioned, we're trying to help enterprises change the way they look at how they're delivering software and value to their customers. But people need to be bought into that. They need to, our people need to really live and breathe that. And so culture for us has been very much about getting people that are totally engaged in what we're doing, cultivating them, growing them, and continuously learning and evolving what they're doing.
Right. Who wants to go next? Similar question. Culture is critical for all business, and if you want to scale at all, you need to have a good team culture in mind. It's crucial. So, what are some of the key things that you think to build and maintain culture?
Your culture is emanated from the people that you employ, and actually, as founders of a business, you have to truly understand what your ideals are. Because cultures can sound like a bit of a euphemism, and actually, sometimes when I go along to see clients, they will have certain things that they apparently stand for, but when you meet the people that you are about to recruit for, that isn't obvious. And actually, when we're looking at Gen Y and the individuals that we're looking to bring into our businesses, they can sniff out authentic culture like that. And certainly for me in my 40s, it's not something that we did. We didn't understand what culture was. We were there to work hard, play hard, and earn a good living. Well, unfortunately, we're now dealing with generations that are much more switched on. So you have to get to understand what your ideals are as an individual, as founders of a business. What do you truly value and what are you looking to emanate? And from that, look at what sort of culture you want. Because it's no good being, it's no good believing one thing and saying your culture is something different, because you won't attract the people that you need in your business. And it has to be, exactly as you said, it has to be live, breathe. You have to feel it. And culture is something you have to feel as soon as you walk through the doors. And so then you work out how does that happen from that.
Joel?
I can talk to culture when you actually start to scale a business. I think the roots certainly of Eventbrite is people have bought into the culture, they bought into the founders from day one. It's been critical for us to keep scaling, knowing that the core values are still in place. And so it's really down to your hiring and making sure that these people are actually committed and passionate to what they're trying to do, because every person you add to the business changes the culture. But you want to keep the core values still in place and making sure that that continues as you scale. And when you start getting volume of people, it's quite hard. You have to put a real focus on it. And candidly, sometimes you change those people because they're not working with the business as it changes, and you just have to keep a real eye on it. But the foundation is having people bought into what a very clear vision is for the company, and making sure that they're sold on that and they continue to be sold on it. But it's something that I'm a checkbox kind of guy. And this is not something you can put a tick in the box and say, I've done that. It's something you have to look at all the time.
Great. Andrew?
I guess we're slightly smaller than you guys. We're only 7 full-time staff, so it's slightly different. And actually, the average age is 24. So how do you engage with that? I'm older, the director's 70, so it's a complete change in mindset. That actually, a lot of the time, I'm just watching what they do and trying to learn, and not, I guess, stand on the growth. So, for instance, 3 of the younger team, they chat through Google Chat. They don't talk, but they're doing something. I think I could stop Google Chat via the admin panel, but actually it's a good way for them to communicate. It's all recorded. They can understand each other easily, and whilst they are only a metre apart, there's no point in stopping that, because actually it's driving progress and it's driving results. From my point of view as one of the founding team, I have to be there. You know, I'm the first one in, usually last to leave. I'll work on a weekend, I'll jump on a flight, and I've got to show them that hard work breeds success, but also try and instill some good working practices, i.e. when we're all talking, take notes because you'll forget. There's 2 screens with stacks. See what's happening and try and react to it. Think of an idea, tell someone, don't just sit on it. So it's trying to be very positive about making mistakes in some ways. And there's always mistakes daily, but it's seeing how you can react to that and then empowering a young person to step up and take some responsibility and do something with it, which I think is really important for our culture anyway.
I think that's really important to embrace failure. And as a lawyer, that's hard. You know, the lawyers in the room will know that it is hard to embrace failure. And I think that's a really good point, that you need to let people fail and then not punish them, not crucify them for that failure. Gina?
For us, it's been finding people who share our values, really. I mean, we're lucky that we're in the travel space, so who doesn't love traveling? But we have the challenge that we have over 1,000 hosts around the world, and ensuring that all those hosts share our values is incredibly important. They need to have a passion for the city, and they need to have a passion for travel and an understanding of what travelers are looking for. And also within the team in the office, we've hired people who may have lacked experience in certain areas, but who are truly passionate about travel and about learning, and that really has paid off. So, and understanding our value, what our values are, has been absolutely crucial. So we've had a workshop where we made sure that we understood what we stand for, where we also have the guts to say no to certain types of business, because you have to understand and believe in what you offer, and believe that what you offer is great. So having that shared value, I think, is absolutely crucial.
I think there's a common theme that's come through all these questions, and Lucy, I wanted to ask you this question about recruitment, given your business. Culture is really important, and finding that right fit is really important as well. I find as a business owner, sometimes I think very hard to pinpoint at the beginning. So have you got some keys that business owners can look at in that recruitment process, and how they can recruit to find that right person?
Yes. We're set up to conspire against ourselves when we're looking at recruiting people. And the vast majority, for all of you, the main challenge of building your business is going to be finding the right talent, and the talent that's going to give you the correct platform and go in the same direction that you're looking to go in. And people tend to hire really badly because we're not trained in how to interview, generally speaking. We don't have the training about how to ensure that all of those unconscious biases that we have, let's say I'm walking into an interview and you and I have been to the same university. Brilliant, it's fantastic. We've got a platform to chat about straight away. Oh great, we both love skiing. And then all of a sudden, before I know it, I've hired you, starting day one, 3 months later I discovered you're really poor at the job. Now, McKinsey tells us that actually interviewing is the 3rd best form of hiring. The first is an assessment that's based on a skill that's going to be demonstrated in a job. So let's say you were going to hire a PA, ask them to type a letter. You're going to hire an analyst, modelling is the first port of call. The second is a cognitive ability test. So this isn't brain teasers, actually they're proven to be completely useless. but something where you can demonstrate your ability to learn, disseminate information, and put into practice something you've learned. So those are my two big tips, is that actually interviewing is your least favoured go-to. But if you're going to interview, develop questions that are around your ideals or the benchmarks. When you look at somebody in your firm that's doing the things you need them to do, whether it's sales-based, whether it's analytically based, look at their behavioural traits, because past behaviour is the best indicator of future behaviour. So then you develop perhaps 10 behavioural-based questions that you need, and the best way then of measuring those is have a scoring system. 0 for someone that's given you poor information, 5 that's best. And the reason why this scoring system is so brilliant is A, it helps you if you've just had a row with the wife or your husband and you've come in and you're in a bad mood and you give someone a tough time. Or it helps you when you're in a great mood and perhaps give somebody less of a tough time. But you can then measure, when you look back at who you've hired, what they were scoring in your interview. It also means if you've got 2 or 3 of you going into an interview, you can compare and contrast. So we now in our business, when we're hiring, we have a pass mark, and it doesn't matter how much I like that person, how many sales they delivered in their previous, we do not hire now, because we know for people coming into our business, if they scored less than 30 in their interview, we know that all our predictors tell us they're going to be a poor performer or not emulate our values, which wrecks your culture, which damages performance. So those are my tips for hiring.
It's excellent. I think there's a lot of value there that all of us business owners can take forward when we're hiring people. I wanted to move on to the next topic, but before I do that, are there any questions about culture, employing team members from the audience at all? Yes.
Sorry, I'm a bit older than you, Andrew. Why do people talk over Google Messages when they're only a meter apart?
To be honest with you, they're simply shy. You find a lot of young individuals that come into a company, they don't find their voice. When you're talking highly technical, we focus on tech a lot. To have somebody come into that conversation and I guess be present, it's difficult. So in the interim between when they've started and finding their voice, you have to give them a medium of conversation. And with Google Chats, I found that all the young people can conversate between them, and slowly as their voice develops, they'll then start talking and saying no to ideas or yes to ideas. But it's filling that interim and trying to make people proactive in a way. But it's their shy. I don't know if it's just me. I have 6 sisters, so I'm very talkative, but most young people aren't the same.
I think very careful here. My sister's in charge of the yes. So we had another question. Yes.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of companies that have been sort of growing from the family size, which I'd say probably less than 20 people, with their eye eventually on arriving at the fully formed, every internal organ there, 100, 200 people. And there's a huge cultural change needed when the CEO cannot know everyone's business and his whole thing. And you need some rules and some boundaries and so on that you get away without having the family firm, as it were. I've never really been, I've seen it fail both ways around, where you try and culturally change in advance of your expansion, put down the rules when you're still actually a family, and the other way around, where you're sort of lagging slightly and you put in the rules as you realise you have to. Both ways around I've seen not work very well. I'm just wondering if anyone's got advice on that.
Well, I have the mind, so. I think it's a really good point. I mean, it's something that I faced back in 2015. We had a very fast-growing team in the UK, which had a certain way of doing things, and we were coming to the sort of tail end of that scrappy startup phase and moving into more of a growth phase where, whether or not people like it, you have to add a bit more process, more procedure, more discipline, and to be able to predict the business in a more coherent fashion and grow it efficiently. And, some people don't like that, and they joined a startup because they wanted to work without the boundaries. Again, that's where sometimes you have to make tough decisions. There are set muscles that get you to a certain point in the business. They may not be the ones that get you to the next phase, and that's a really tough gig. you want everyone to come with you on the same journey, but not everybody wants to. And I think if they understand that, you understand that, then there's very rarely any hard feelings, etc. But at the same time, you want to maintain that level of transparency where you can. But again, if you have very, very clear communication of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and why sometimes where you used to be involved in discussions and decisions and you're not anymore because there's too many people and we'll just get paralyzed by trying to get consensus. Again, if you're clear, and communication is nearly always the one that hurts people the most, but if you're as clear as you possibly can be about the things that you're doing and why you're doing it, people tend to, respect that and deal with it. But yeah, it's a challenge.
Any other questions? All right, we might move on to the second topic, which was around funding. And so, a lot of businesses scale and they use funding. And Andrew, I wanted to start with you, given your business. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges for startups in getting funding? And we'll talk to the other panelists as well about that. But from your side, with the angel investing, what do you see?
Absolutely. There's three key things that seem to always stop people raising the capital. I think first of all, it's flexibility, and that comes in many forms, but actually it's valuation. On a daily basis, I see companies that say they're worth 20 million, 50 million. I had one the other day who was looking for 3 million on a £100 million valuation, but didn't have anything in the company except £1 share capital. It just doesn't correlate. And when you speak to a lot of hedge funds or VCs or angel investors, if you're a startup, why is your valuation sort of above 500,000? Now there are cases that it'll go above, but you should bear that in mind. I think the second thing is we're all founders. We all know our business extremely well, but we are terrible at communicating it. We sort of say everything else except the 15 words that matters. And when you send something to someone, the message you send, we barely ever ask anybody else to look at it. We just simply go, okay, I'll write this quick email, fire. But if you ask somebody else to look at it, you'd be surprised what they will pick up on. And then they'll change the message slightly and it comes across a lot better. And I think the final one is product. We're a crowdfunding platform. A lot of the questions asked are just about that startup funding. Where do I get my first 25, 50,000, 100,000 pounds from? And quite a lot of the time it's from companies that shouldn't really be targeting us. They should be targeting another channel, an incubator, a startup phone, etc. But in some ways they're not familiar with what an investor is expecting or what they should be targeting. I give the prime example that we have 26,000 investors. I know how much each.
So unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties here. You're listening to Andrew Adcock talking about funding. This is a short delay, and he continues to talk about funding from his perspective as an angel investor.
Answer questions if you ask it, but it's taking that initiative to ask the question. I think it's really important.
Great. Joel, I'm interested in your perspective here because you've just recently, or Eventbrite's recently been listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and you've come into that role in, I think it was 2015? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I'm not sure you're involved in any fundraising as far as that went, but what's your perspective from that from a GM?
Yeah, it's limited. The company was doing pretty well by the time I joined. All I would say is that watching what's happened over the last few years to get to the point where we actually floated in September is I think really to your point, it's about the realism of what the business is actually doing, and I think you go through some hard knocks when you're talking to the investors, and they bring you down to the right level. That there's a second message that my CEO gave us was, you've got to be realistic, and then the market's going to decide, and that's really where we got to. And so far, that's worked pretty well.
Yeah, excellent. Liz?
I think you're probably better placed to, having just raised over £1 million, because we've organically grown. Funding circle, I know it's fantastic if you need that initial boost, cash flow wise, and perhaps something like Grantry or crowdfunding isn't the right avenue for you, then funding circle is what I would recommend looking at.
There's many ways to be right with this, and you can self-fund, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
For us, it was very challenging. We're quite lucky that Nick, our founder, is from a banking background, so he knows how to talk numbers. If it'd been me, I think we would have failed miserably. But we started with his own money and then went through a couple of rounds of crowdfunding, which was painful. Emailing friends to...
The wrong platform though. It wasn't crowdfunding.
It wasn't your platform.
Just to be clear.
Had we gone with you, I'm sure it would have been a breeze. But it was asking personal friends to invest £10. It was crazy. So it was Nick knocking on hundreds and hundreds of doors, lots of people, VCs particularly, saying, no, you're not raising enough, come back when you have reached this amount of revenue. It's an unproven business, so I was quite surprised. I thought I had this idea that there's lots of investors out there that take a risk. It's a great idea. Everybody saying like, oh, it's an amazing idea. You talk to everybody, and they thought like, why didn't anybody think of that? It's amazing, but still, investors were just not interested. And then eventually, we managed to raise a little bit through the rounds of crowdfunding. Managed to grow the business to a level where we finally found a platform where we were able to raise the money we did, and watch this space.
And Tim, you and I had a chat about this before. You're self-funded. Can you talk about why you made that decision?
I guess I wouldn't call it a conscious decision. It's the way we've evolved, and we've talked about sort of looking for external investment several times, and as a consultancy, our business is basically, we've got 3 points that we kind of focus on. There's clients, there's people, and there's cash flow, and that's probably, our business rotates around those 3 pressure points constantly, and the cash injection will probably change that quite significantly. But to date, we've decided to keep going the organic route, and it's working so far, and it certainly keeps us focused on what we're doing.
Great. Any questions on funding before we move on to the last topic? All right, so the last one we want to talk about was scaling. I'll start with Juna. Your business has expanded to over 35 cities around the world, which is phenomenal. What are some of the key challenges that you've faced in that expansion process?
I think deciding what cities to expand to. The original plan was to stick to London, make London work, and then eventually expand to more cities. But it got to a point where we thought, well, that wasn't working. So through our own network, so we just chose cities where we knew people and where we thought, okay, so we've got some friends, there can be some hosts, we know the cities, we can plan experiences around those cities. So it sort of started like that. And then as it was working, it is a little bit of a learning process, really choosing a city that has a lot of visitors, but at the same time is a little bit off the beaten path, and an interesting city. Challenges also around the difference in time. So having Tokyo, for example, and somebody calling at 4 a.m. going like, oh, the host hasn't shown. Currencies, seasonalities as well. So last year we didn't have enough hosts for the cherry blossom season in Japan. We weren't expecting that. So it really is had we done our research properly before that, maybe we would have overcome that. But it is a little bit of that, a little bit of luck, and a little bit of a gut feeling for whether the city is an interesting one or not.
Cool. Tim, what challenge have you seen with expanding and scaling your business?
I guess for us it comes back to that culture question, and it's about people for us more than anything. That's finding the right people. Our engineers are very highly skilled. They're not easy to come by, and invariably most of the people we bring on board, we spend 2-3 months training them up to the level we want them at, and sort of living and breathing what we do. And so that's probably the hardest thing for us in terms of growth. And I think the other side, we're now at a point scale-wise where pipeline is much more important to us. Really having that client sort of list growing and sort of building up the work channel. That's starting to become more prominent for us, but to date it's really been people and the cultural side of it.
And when you say the pipeline, you mean generating new leads?
New leads and so on. Typically if we're working with large enterprises, you've got 6 months to 18-month lead times, and it's the whole thing. You can walk into one organisation, high street bank, and then when you're on site next week, versus it'll take 12 months to kind of dribble through and get to a point where we're on site, and all the way through that process, it's when are you expecting, and then sort of managing bench. So for us, it's culture and people.
Yep, that's great. Lucy?
I think in terms of the ability to scale, one has been infrastructure. So initially we tried to be as lean as possible without investing too much into infrastructure, and actually the best investment we've now made over the last year is to have people that are better experts than myself and my co-founder Ed, and as a result of that we've seen our growth exponentially over the last 14-16 months where we've made that investment. So what I mean by that is we brought a financial controller in-house.
So unfortunately here it paused while Lucy was talking about scaling. So you'll see that it's by the time we get back, it's moved on to Tim. Basically in that time we were talking about scaling, the challenges of scaling and taking bets. So look, there's lots of great value in the rest of this video and podcast, so please listen to the rest of it. Thanks very much.
Outside should we be taking the big risk, and expanding faster and whatever. That's the difficult question to answer for us anyway.
I have my own 2 cents there. Jim Benson, who's the inventor of personal Kanban, who I've done a bit of work with, he talks about making small bets. That blows a lot of risks, and that's the way I think about it. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, personally, I think I like risks. I dumped a well-paid job as soon as I had a baby and joined Nick. This crazy idea, but I've loved it, and I think the great thing we have as a team is that the three founders, we have very different personalities. So he keeps me in my place. But we've taken risks as a business. We've had to, but they were calculated risks, and a lot of them also driven by data. So I think one thing we haven't done until now very well is really look at data. Had we had that in place from the start, I think we might have been in this space even faster. But yeah, risks is a good thing.
Great, John.
Again, risk for us is still hugely important. I think when you get to a certain scale, there is a propensity to go soft and not to place the bigger bets. And I think we constantly challenge ourselves around that, because if you're not going bigger then you tend to optimize for the smaller bets. You'll go for 5% increases rather than 50% increases. And you don't make the bigger prize. We talk about, probably British converted, we talk about BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. Something that is, far out that is just enormous. But then you reverse engineer on how you get to it, so that it affects every decision you make on a daily basis. So that your focuses your mind about whether or not you take a safe bet or maybe you make a calculated risk. And to the point around data, data is critical. The only thing I would say about it is that, again, you can get paralyzed by data, where you're looking for that 90-95% decision based off data, but you could be waiting weeks, months and years to get to that point. I think if you get to 60 to 70%, it's probably worth the punt, because ultimately you've got plenty of economists and bankers, George Soros and people who are wrong 60% of the time. So they only get it right 40% of the time, so if you can be 60% sure, that's not bad.
I think that's great advice.
It's funny because actually I come from a regulated firm of accountants, so we are probably risk averse. But let's be honest, as a startup or a small company, you always take risks. I look at my competitors, I saw the risks they took before they were regulated doing what they're doing, to when we put a crypto payment gateway in. people look at you and they probably balk at the idea of what you're trying to achieve, but your hope is 12 months, 24 months down the line, paid off and it's worked out. Some of the times it doesn't, some of the times it's a loss, but I think you find a path in the risk. And if you're going to do a startup, you have to be a little bit of a risk taker. You have to be either. I think I heard one time a quote about all business founders are investors at heart. So they're willing to lose capital before they gain capital. And I think that's important. We've always, from a technical point of view, tried to be first in doing anything, and we're not afraid to say to the FCA or a body like that what we're doing. I think they can then feed back to you. When we created our secondary market, before we put it live, the first thing we did, went to the FCA, sat down with 6 of them, showed it to them, and they were horrified. But you know what I learned from that? Don't launch a secondary market. So you can do things, you can change things, and you can play around with it. But as a startup, how are you going to learn if all you're going to do is copy somebody else and try and be the same? You need to be different, and that's where the risk element is. So you can be small and calculated, or you can try and blow it all in one go. It's entirely up to you, but personally I take the sort of calculated risk.
Excellent. Now, we've got a couple more minutes. Does anyone have any other questions before we finish up for any of the panel? Yes.
Sorry to go again, but just a minor comment on risk that might make Nigel feel a bit better about himself. I think it's somewhat situation dependent. If you're in a slow-moving industry like, law, established, let's call it, then you're probably taking wild risks. Probably someone's already been there. Whereas if you're in something more like Joel's, there's probably going to be one winner in that market, and you've got to take big risks to get ahead of the opposition. So maybe Nigel's risky person, such as that.
Great. Any other questions? Well, can you join me in thanking the panel?
Thanks guys for supporting the book and supporting Peregine. Really appreciate you guys turning up. This is not a book about law. I've read this. I've helped edit it. I haven't read a legal book for over 20 years, which is why I'm running the business and Ben's still looking after the clients. This is a really good book for people trying to grow a business, and it's a bedside table reading book, and my wife's enjoyed it as well. And it's just good to dip into. I really appreciate Jeremy coming over, for finding us to help launch the book with you. I hope it becomes an Amazon bestseller in the UK. Sure. Then we can really move and become writers, right? I just want to give a shout out as well to Legal Edge, who've held Ben and my hand a bit. And Legal Edge are our partners. They are all former in-house lawyers. They help work with fast growth businesses, and they really know how to do it. So please think of Legal Edge and Peregine if you want help at all in the UK. Obviously think of Jeremy if you want help and you're going into a new market in Australia. But thanks all for coming, really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone on Facebook for watching, and thanks again for the panel. See you soon. Unless, if you guys are around for a couple of minutes, if anyone wants to chat about raising huge amounts of money or about culture stuff, you guys be around for a couple of minutes? Okay. Cheers all, thanks a lot. Thank you everyone.
I hope you enjoyed that panel discussion from the UK launch of the Business Legal Lifecycle. As I said, thanks to Andrew Edcock from Crowd for Angels, Joel Crouch from Eventbrite, Lucy Chamber from CNC Search, Tim Savage from Marconi, and Juna Takeshi from City Unscripted. And a really big special thanks to Nigel Clark from Peregine Law, who helped organise the event and helped edit the UK book. And thank you to, if you were in attendance at that event, it was a great event. If you want to check out anything more about the Business Legal Lifecycle, please go to businesslegallifecycle.com.au. This was our latest show, 154. So we'll have some show notes at businesslegallifecycle.com.au/154. And as always, if you've got any questions, please reach out to me. Lifecycle@jeremystretton.com. Thanks very much.